if you want to scale your wealth, first you've got to get your A round. And then after that, you've got to get your B round. And then you've got to take your IPO to Main Street. And if you get time, try to give a fuck about your users. Yes, today we've been watching CoinSummit live from London, a very exclusive event, £720 a ticket, can't stop saying it. But here on World Crypto Network, we like to keep things real. So today I'd like to give a big welcome to Ray, who's coming in from Vegas. Say hi.
Ahoy!
Hello. And of course, we're joined, you just woken up there, Tom, by Mad Bitcoins.
Good morning, Bitcoins, and it's really morning now.
Yeah, he looks pretty tight. So you guys are kind of fresh to it. You haven't been following it too much, but I've been tweeting up an absolute storm. My friends have been texting me saying I've been getting a lot of publicity up on that Twitter wall. The organizers have actually put up a giant screen behind the speakers where they've been showing the CoinSummit hashtag. I'm not sure if they'll want to keep on doing it tomorrow. But yeah, we have been tweeting out. There's been I think it's fair to say that there's been a little bit of trolling. We weren't too impressed by, some of the speakers on the VC panel, but I actually really like some of the pictures that we got earlier on of some of the Bitcoin businesses. So let's start talking about some of these businesses, in particular the ones that don't always get the attention that they deserve. Ray, tell us a little bit about what you do.
Oh, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate the opportunity. My name is Ray Poulard. I'm a U.S. expatriate. I was born in Los Angeles, and about 6 or 7 years ago, I moved to Medellin, Colombia. And I've noticed that there's a lot of problems going on, particularly with legislation, as far as moving money across borders, and that's something that is I've seen both sides of it, both from the remittances aspect, as my wife and my young son are down there, and also from the business aspect and from being a U.S. expatriate. So when you want to move money across borders, there's just a lot of friction, a lot of viscosity right now, and it's getting worse with legislation like FATCA that was just implemented on July 1st, and a lot of people were sleeping when that happened. And when Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies really came to prominence, I've been around in this space, I guess, since about 2012. Was at the Pirate at 40. I think that's when Bitcoin was around $11 or so. That's when I got out. I have the death. I was like, oh no, this is a scam. The scam word. But
I think everybody has this story where I always think, oh, if I got in early, I'd be rich. But the reality is, if I got in early and my investment doubled, or going the other way, if I got in early and my investment halved, I would freak out either way. Like, anybody that has a hold forever is this Iron Man, like Iron Man holding. Like, no, I would totally, I would get excited or I'd dump. Like, either way, it can't, human nature, you can't overcome it.
So let me understand a little bit about what you do, Ray. So you run, it says here, an expat adventure for the 21st century. So you're helping people move out of their home countries to set up a home in a new country. And presumably Bitcoin really helps to ease a lot of the friction and, as you put it, the viscosity when they get there.
Oh yeah, think about it. Like, for example, not just individuals, but say, for example, if you get relocated overseas, your company relocates to, a lot of companies are moving because it's taxation from Western countries to developing world. You gotta find out how to adjust, how to adapt, because like 70% of people who do it end up like a home within the first year. And so we set up something like an Amazing Race style, adventure for people looking at overseas. So like a one-day event where you learn how to where the dentist is, the doctor is, the post office, places that you would most likely visit if you were a resident over there. And Bitcoin is a big part of that, because you gotta move, you gotta have money. You move your resources overseas, and especially when you're moving from one country to another, there's a lot of free flow between your own country and your new country. So you're setting up things, you're moving money there, but it's becoming increasingly difficult for whatever reason. And all conspiracies aside, there just seems to be like a global tax framework trying to implement, and they're trying to box everyone and just reach that financial Berlin Wall, what they call it. Right?
Okay,
and so it's easy.
Right.
It becomes friction-free when you're able to move money overseas.
Yeah, so we're having a few problems with your audio, but just so to make sure that the audience is kind of understanding it. So essentially, it sounds like what you're saying, your products basically offers people a way of taking their wealth into Bitcoin and then traveling to a new country in a way that makes that process a whole lot easier than what they would be used to otherwise.
Affirmative. And in the legal, because remember, Bitcoin is not money, right? It's software, it's free speech, so you're not breaking any laws. A lot of these people in the offshore industry, they set up trusts and they set up all these accounts and things, and they have to have all this huge mountains of paperwork, and you have to, it's like tiptoeing through a minefield whether or not you're going to uh, breach some regulatory issue. Well, Bitcoin eliminates all that. It breaks all of those barriers, and it does so in a way that's legal. We don't know how long this window is going to be open. So we recommend, if you're going to do something, even if you're going to move some of your holdings offshore, which is a very prudent thing to do, you do it quickly. Because as we've seen with NYDFS last summer and these different regulatory agencies, they're trying to put a bead on cryptocurrency any way they can in order to bring it into that financial, I guess, bear trap and box people in. So, hey, look, you can't move that over there without giving us our fair share or your cut, or we're going to confiscate, and so on and so forth. Big cryptocurrency, at this point, the field is wide open. You can move it overseas in a legal way and protect yourself in that regard. And have fun doing it. It's about having fun. What's the purpose of it? If you know, life, if you're not going to have fun doing it.
Well,
No,
and
quite.
like Chris discussed when he went through customs, when you move Bitcoin overseas, you're not even really moving it. The Bitcoin just stays out there in the blockchain. You go where you're going. You know, you control it with your brain wallet, with your paper wallet, with whatever kind of access to your keys you control. And then the rest of it is just, where's the Bitcoin anyway? And that's going to be the problem coming up with all these regulations. These are all geographic-based regulations, and it's so funny. And you know, in the classic way, they always wanted a world government or whatever, but now they have Bitcoin, which is truly a world currency, doesn't belong anywhere, and they're going to have to regulate it with these old-fashioned laws that are all about geographic controls, which don't seem to have any effect on Bitcoin, the network, the internet. You know, we lost net neutrality, but still, you know, there's still, the internet is still here.
So one of the things I think is really interesting about this conference is just the way you've got a whole new level of middlemen that would just love to undercut the existing financial system, right? That they would be happy with 20% of what the traditional financial system already earns in cuts. And I'm not sure that that's the answer. I'm not sure that this revolution is about replacing one middleman with another middleman from a slightly lower social strata such that they're happy to take fewer fees. The beauty of the Bitcoin network is that the fees go directly to the people who take the risks and process the payments and actually put that work in. And I'd like to draw everyone's attention to the Sexio desk. Now, I thought that they weren't actually going to have commercial stalls or tables set up for some of the sponsors. However, it turns out that they have another floor at the venue there in London. So Sexio and gigahash.io, I guess they're the same company, have been given a place where they can pitch and meet people and network. And like this tweet here from iLeo Lars, who says, meet the Sexio team, Bitcoin millionaires at CoinSummit in London. And look at the ages of these people, look at how young they are. And this isn't the only picture. If you go through the hashtag CoinSummit hashtag, you see that the demographic here, this represents to me a huge transfer of wealth, right? Where you're going from people from a, you know, particularly like a baby boom generation. I mean, this is quite funny. This is Max Kaiser. But you know, a baby boom generation who got free tuition, they got very cheap housing, and now you're going to a generation. I mean, this is a revolution that's being staged from the bedroom. A lot of these people were just coders, and they were kind of making this stuff up from the comfort of their own living rooms. So hey, Will, we're joined by Will Pangman.
Yeah, I think it's great. You know.
Say hi, Will. You there?
Hey guys. Hey, I'm interested to know what Ronaldo was about to say.
Go ahead, Ray. Looks like we got some delay on the line.
Oh, thank you. No, I was just gonna say, yeah, it does seem to be, and I don't want to have it like that. Is there a delay there?
It's okay. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I think it's great. Just to touch on your point a little bit earlier, We're talking about, oh goodness, you were, I lost. I'm having some
Okay,
problems with audio.
we'll
Hold
have
on
to
one
come
moment,
back
please.
to
Go
you.
ahead.
But Will, tell us about you. Where are you right now? Where are you coming in from?
I'm in South Florida in the Tampa area, visiting some family and meeting with some Bitcoin folks. The folks at the meetup here, I think they're going to have a meetup after a couple more of these conferences go by. So we've got like 3 major conferences in the next week or 2. This one going on in London, and then the North American Bitcoin Conference in Chicago, and then a few days later, CoinSummit in San Francisco. Or not CoinSummit, excuse me, Coin Congress. So it's hard to keep them all straight now, all these conference series that are going on. A lot of them in North America, but this major one in London today. Yeah, it's interesting to see the different complexion here. Of course, there is some of the old guard at some of these. I was at the conference in Washington, D.C. a couple of weekends ago, and that one, certainly a young crowd, but also you see some of the old guard attending there as well. And I think it's a good thing for this to mix. I just, as we've been talking behind the scenes a bit off air, it'd be nicer to see these conferences made more accessible to just any interested person. Some of them are just way too prohibitively expensive.
Yeah, £720 a ticket. That's about $1,200, $1,300 or so. Would you be able to go to one of those, Will?
I would not spring for that unless it could be expensed or something for whoever I'm working for. And then I'd happily go and represent that company if we have a contract in place or whatever. But yeah, I don't think really anyone is paying for these out of pocket unless they're independently wealthy and just interested in Bitcoin. So most of these, I think, are coming from company accounts that are expensed because they're a company expense. It's a very good thing to be at these conferences. Again, why I think it's great to make them more accessible. Lots of business gets done at these conferences, and as you were mentioning a minute ago, Chris, a lot of these new entrepreneurs, they've built their products in their bedrooms or their basements and things in their garages, and now maybe they've enjoyed an appreciation in Bitcoin or some other altcoin that they're holding, and they want to share their product with the world. These conferences are where you go to do that, to get some seed funding and things like this. And if even just a hobbyist cannot go because it's over $1,000 for a weekend, you don't even see some of the most major music festivals with some of the biggest infrastructure charging that much for just a weekend. I think the most expensive music festivals these days are about $300 for 3 or 4 days of, whether it's a camping festival or, somewhere in a city where most folks are staying in hotels, hostels, and condos.
I mean,
they're just not that expensive.
One of the problems I think
Burning Man is only $400.
Oh, you love Burning Man. Yeah, you're right. I mean, the thing is, I just wonder what Pamir and Gulnar were trying to create, what kind of atmosphere. This is one of the quotes from the VC panel, Shakil Khan, who's the owner of CoinDesk, and I think he also was one of the co-founders of Spotify, if I'm not mistaken. He's like, none of these first-time founders, these young people that I just alluded to, are actioning their investments for the land grab. So you've got this very kind of zero-sum mentality where the only way to create value in the world is to take it from someone else, rather than kind of an abundance paradigm, which is what I thought the whole philosophy of the internet was founded on. Like, we should be setting up a world where everybody wins, not where I have to win necessarily at someone else's expense.
Chris, this is the most important point I think we can echo over and over and over, because it seems we don't get heard unless we use the same neurolinguistic tricks that the mainstream does, which is this endless repetition. And as you just pointed out, the only land grab here is the 21 million Bitcoins. That's the only thing I see as a land grab. So get yourself some Bitcoins and you'll be in good shape. Even if you have a small section in the future, you'll be in good shape. Otherwise, you're right. Bitcoin is a tool and all of these entrepreneurs, all of these ideas can really be just tweaked slightly if they are somewhat centralizing to be more abundant, more decentralized, more sharing, This is what we're seeing with the sharing economy exploding and cryptocurrencies as a whole. So you're right. This is just, I think maybe, I don't know if it's nefarious. Maybe it is for some folks, but it's certainly a level of ignorance, not realizing that we're on the precipice of a new paradigm.
Yeah, good point. Hey, Rach, let's try Ray's audio again. Unmute yourself. Let's see if we can hear you. Ah, okay. Well, we'll have to come back to Ray. I mean, I would just, continue the point that some of the things like, well, in particular, this comment came up on the VC panel that Bitcoin doesn't have a good enough brand management. And actually, Mark Warren at Bittylicious actually put it really, really well, because he came in with a comment and he's like, well, actually, the branding of Bitcoin is up to everyone. Like, it's like he gets it. Not sure Bitcoin really does have a branding problem. It's visually appealing and companies will become mouthpieces. Like everyone's in charge of the brand. And yet, absolutely, your brand is not a choice. Your reputation is determined as soon as two or more people decide on a fact about you, right? Like if two people compare, they have a conversation and they say, this was my experience, there's your brand right there. And you look at McDonald's, right? How much money, they couldn't spend all the money in the world to stop people thinking of greasy, unethical food every time they mention the name. So branding is basically about reputation management, and it's up to everybody to support the Bitcoin brand. I don't think this is something you can just outsource to a firm, a bit like the Bitcoin Foundation are doing at the moment with lobbying Congress.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Great. Okay. No, great points. I'd like to touch on that too. The brand management. It touches on Will's point about the 21 million Bitcoin is a land grab. Awesome. I'd like to tweet that in a minute. Touching on those, I think that I appreciate venture capital. I appreciate the free market. I appreciate people taking risk and being intent on growing businesses and providing real value to the marketplace. But I think that in this regard, many, not all, of course, are taking 20th century concepts and they're trying to apply them to 21st century technology. I think the Bitcoin's best brand management, going back to what you guys are saying, is going to come through adoption. I think that when people actually use it, the concept becomes much more easier to grok, much more easier to understand. They're easily available, or easily to get their head around as opposed to an abstract concept. So the more we can get people to use it, once it trickles down to mom and pop and they see how easy it is to use, and that's what we're trying to do, is when people, particularly this market is people who are moving overseas, people who are traveling around the world, you don't have to worry about confiscation. You don't have to worry about counterfeit. You don't have to worry about these high fees. When you're sending remittances home to foreign countries, you don't have to worry about, all of the friction and viscosity that's there. But I think adoption will, brand management will come through adoption.
Yeah, it's interesting to see kind of how the marketing or branding around Bitcoin has evolved, even in the short time I've been involved, like about a year and a half. And even, my knowledge of the history prior to my involvement around the Bitcoin space and my first-hand experience, it's, combining it all together, you've got no branding, basically, and then right around Mt. Gox and Satoshi Dice, you have a little bit of branding, and it's a gaming tool or a toy or a hobbyist tool for hardware, hobbyists who want to build the mining equipment on their own, and then you get like mid 2012 into 2013, you get the pseudo-libertarian / anarcho-capitalist branding around Bitcoin with the be your own bank. There was that meme. There's Plan B. It's time for Plan B. There was that meme, and these circulated pretty heavily. And now that there's so much money in the space and so many products being built up, and it's really mainstreaming right now. We are on the bridge at the moment from early adopter to early majority. We are on that bridge. And so you're seeing lots of marketing budgets for these companies going into branding around Bitcoin. I think BitPay has done a great job. It was a huge gesture to get this bowl game, the college football bowl game, which is a postseason kind of like a major event, and lots of marketing around these games in America anyway. But they get the game and they don't call it the BitPay Bowl. They decide to call it the Bitcoin Bowl. I mean, very, very cool gesture right there that you'd never see in corporate America or the corporate Western world. So this is the kind of branding tussle going on right now, is how much do we make Bitcoin not libertarian, kind of like Mark Andreessen's approach, and how much do we just let Bitcoin do its thing and just plaster Bitcoin all over the place and let people figure out on their own through the help of the grassroots, like doing the education and the outreach, all of these media self-starter things going on, like Crypto Biz magazine. Everybody kind of piggybacking on Bitcoin Magazine and CoinDesk and the early ones, but taking it in every direction, which is awesome. We want to see that. More decentralizing.
You know it's going mainstream because all the middlemen are flooding in. And one of the things that I'm really sensing from CoinSummit is this feeling of submissiveness, that these entrepreneurs, often, fairly privileged white middle class men like myself, who feel like they need to pander to money. They feel like, a lot of them were very nervous delivering their pitches. For some of them, it may have been their first time delivering to such a big audience at such an auspicious event with so many cameras and a live stream and all this kind of pressure. But anyone can be an investor now. Why aren't we putting our energy and our effort into making sure that people at the bottom of the economic scale can get the advantages? Because I thought that's what capitalism was all about, where the capital rules. Not where people can start engaging in crony capitalism or communism, where you can start sectioning off money. I almost feel like this event is where money talks to itself.
Oh, that's a good question. Let me ask you this. So is it that they're pandering to money, or are they pandering to governments by proxy, in the sense that they don't want to upset the apple carts because they want to get a hold of that regulation, that framework that will send, Bitcoin, I got to say it, to the moon, so to speak, right? Are they pandering to money, or are they pandering to governments by proxy to these big money
even
pockets?
think that governments have that much power anymore? I think that what happened at the end of World War II was we didn't really ever get over tyranny. I think what happened was we ended up exporting tyranny into our classrooms and our businesses, because you're not really free if every day you have to turn up to an office and be told what to do by a boss who's usually got terrible people skills, and you're just dealing with a guy who's got a problem. He needs you to solve that problem, and he's going to farm your time, that irreversible thing called time, which you're never getting back. And the only way for you to get out of this situation is to farm someone else's time. You spend most of your job at work trying to reduce your workload, trying to get out of doing the work. And then when it gets automated away, or it gets outsourced to the Philippines or to India or somewhere like this, then you bemoan the fact that you lost your job. Okay, so now we're seeing that the demand for wage labor go down as more people start to set up their own businesses and do all these kind of things. But as soon as that happens, we set up another class structure. We set up more silos and more walls, so that actually, well, if you want this over here, you've got to climb through this ladder. You've got to pay £700 odd to attend this event on some private land owned by the Canary Wharf, corporation. And then you've got to pander to Brock Pierce, who said in no uncertain terms, basically, that I do not have time to listen to you. I don't have time to get to know you and understand your needs and try to work out a win-win situation. He said, you've got to give me an elevator pitch. Just give it to me straight. I don't have time for all of this. But where's the sense of, trying to understand another person's needs? Where's the entrepreneurial sense of anticipating other people's demands with empathy and then trying to de-risk their situation? Why does it always have to be so aggressive?
That's a good question. Let me answer you. I think one of your first questions, you said, are we free? And is it one of those things where, in a sense, do governments have that much power? Ask Charlie Shrem, ask Ross. So in a sense, there's that big 800-pound gorilla in the room. Going back to what I was asking before, is do they have to tiptoe around government? Does cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, every conversation have to take place under the auspices of government hanging there, and you can't do what you want to do, and perhaps do some of those radical ideas that you're talking about, because you have to keep government in the loop. You have to tiptoe around what they want. That's one of my questions.
That's a good point, actually. You are right, but I increasingly feel like governments are the behest of corporations. I mean, just look at what happened when the banks were too big to jail, right? And we had to ban them, and we had to bail them out. I wish we could have banned them. I was at Lloyd's Banking Group the other day, and I did one of my riffs, one of my routines, which is, hey guys, I'll do you a deal. You all give me your money. I'll go to the casino, and if I win, I'll give you 0.5%. But if I lose, you got to give me more money because I'm too big to jail. And it just, there was like a stunned silence. But you've got to remember that as individuals, these people weren't individually responsible for the financial calamities of 2008. But let's not kid ourselves. The fact is they were propping the system up. They were facilitating them. And that is the problem, is that everyone's waiting for someone else to come in and solve these problems for them. And I feel that way with government too. The government also makes itself submissive to the corporations. And if government really is the monopoly on violence, then what does that mean for our future?
Yeah, I wanted to tackle the question. I don't see governments and corporations as mutually exclusive. A lot of the rights that a corporation, quote-unquote rights, that a corporation has are granted to it through the laws passed by governments and protected by the governments, and they were actually designed to protect the corporations, and in the particular way that group is organized to protect that, in many cases with the laws that they write around it, the regulations and all that stuff. So they're not mutually exclusive. It's one ball of wax. There's a term in America, I'm sure we see this in other Western nations, and certainly much more so in very corrupt, much more obviously corrupt nations, like it's called the revolving door. And so you see or interlocking boards is another term, and you'll see board members, the same person functioning on many different boards, some of which may seem to contradict one another in their mission statements. And you'll see the same people taking jobs in and out of government, whether it's working for a private lobbying group or defense contractor, and then getting a job on some committee, or even as an elected official. They get elected often too. So they're not just going through the appointed positions in government and boards on corporations and foundations. So this is like not an accident, right? You see a cluster of evidence all in one place of this kind of thing going on a lot. And Bitcoin is no exception. We see it in Bitcoin too, although it's such a new industry. I think that's a certainly valid excuse why we might see more of this, or more obvious. Bitcoin is also a very transparent industry, and so you see a lot more of it obviously that way too. But the revolving door phenomenon is not an accident. And it hints to the fact that there is much of the mechanisms of control that are outside the purview of the public, and they're supposed to be that way. They're supposed to be kept that way, outside of the view. So this is why cryptocurrencies are so profound and amazing. And to Ray's point, does this industry, Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, need to tiptoe around government? Well, yeah, it does, if it wants to be ubiquitous and mainstream on a fast track. So
or as Pi Rebel points out, when you conflate the government with the corporate industrial structure, it's called fascism. And actually,
exactly.
why don't we go straight to the root? Why don't we go straight to the root of this problem? Let's ask ourselves where that power comes from. It comes from the voter and the consumer. That's people like you and me. So why not just go straight to the root of the problem and take the power back from the people who give them the power in the first place?
Yeah, and what is the best way possible for human beings to do that today? I really think it's Bitcoin. And working in the altcoins is very important too, but if you want to do that effectively today, more so, you can use Bitcoin as a tool for doing so, for opting out of this, striking the root, essentially, as you're pointing out, Chris, getting to the heart of the matter here and pointing out all of the web of control. All of the gardens, the walled gardens that we find ourselves in society, all of the false debates we engage in, with our brothers and sisters. Instead of getting at the heart of the issue, one of the obvious ones, and this is slightly off topic for Bitcoin, but one of the obvious false debates out there is, should government protect marriage equality, or should it protect the sanctity of the marriage between male and female, aka the family unit, and so on. And libertarians often lately are more so, I think, getting at the root of the matter, which is, why are we asking for permission to commit ourselves for life with a partner, and why do we need the third party of government involved in that relationship? And there's lots of maybe answers to that question, but none of them are really essential or necessary for the health and well-being of that relationship. Right? And it's just a permanent commitment between two voluntary consenting adults So this is a good example of why this debate is false. We don't need government to prevent people of differing sexual persuasions from getting married, and we don't need government to protect people from different persuasions getting married, or not protecting, but giving permission, really, for them to commit to each other. So we just that's a case where it has thrust itself in between people acting voluntarily with each other unnecessarily. And money now, with money, we have a way, and money and many other things now, we have a way of disintermediating that wedge. So this is why I like to point out the psychosocial implications of Bitcoin and Bitcoin adoption and Bitcoin ubiquity. They're astounding. You know, all of these lies, all of these systems of lies, whether you want to call it government or corporations or fascism as a whole, or really get deep and strike the root, the bottom line is there are systems of control that wall you in, put barriers and silos around sections of people to control them, and they manage that. And what do they need to do that? They need trust. Like you were saying, Chris, do we vote with our dollars or vote at the ballot box? What do we do as consumers or civilians here? Well, we stop trusting them, and we now have a system of trustless consensus. So this is like the greatest key. This is the keys to Pandora's box, right?
What's the
Can I jump in? Can I jump in really quickly? I'll just take it one step further.
Go for it.
I just say, hey, look, sorry to step on your toes, Chris. Well, yeah. What's the next step from that? Vote with your feet. Stop giving them permission. Vote with your feet. Leave that jurisdiction. And I think that Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, etc., give us the ability to untether ourselves from that system. That's what they want to do. They want to tax us to death so we don't have the resources to simply leave. If it's one of these things where you have the power to do what you want to do, so now it's like, well, I'm going to take my ball and I'm going to go home. My home this time is outside of your jurisdiction. Now I can do whatever it is I want to do, particularly going back to the permission framework. Permissionless DACs and DAOs, now you don't have to worry about government regulations, so to speak. You operate outside of the system, operate outside of the matrix, and pretty much automate it and decentralize. Now you have a system of decentralized autonomous units, communities around the world that are operating independently of the system. Those are things like that they're afraid of. When you don't need them anymore, they want to keep you plugged in like the umbilical cord, right? People walk around with the umbilical cords hanging out, like Dan Kennedy says, looking for somewhere to plug it in. Bitcoin gives you the opportunity to take all of that away. It empowers you. And once it goes to mass adoption, people are going to start asking these questions. Well, what do we need government for? Why am I asking them permission? I'm an autonomous human being with matchless, boundless creativity. What do I need to ask government for to do the things that I want to do, as long as I can interact voluntarily with my fellow human being without harming them, harming myself?
That is very well said. I love that piece about the umbilical cord and working out where you can plug it in. I just wanted to quote David Irvin this morning. I interjected on a conversation between him and Brian Sovereign, where Brian says, I worry about the day when children respond with no mummy. The DAO or DAC says we can't do that. And David came back just perfectly. Yes, trustless equals trust programmed by humans, so there is still issues. The dangers are more obvious but still there. Essentially what he's talking about is us programming into our existence just-in-time justice, where we already agree ahead of time. It's a little, just to trivialize it and just to really, really boil this down, it's a little bit like me setting 2 alarms in the morning because I know myself better, right? It's about understanding how I really behave when things, when the reality hits my situation. And it's about saying, rather than make rules and regulations around how we'd like to be in an ideal world, how about we just be honest with ourselves about how we really are and just agree on this set of executable commands? Because the laws of the physics, they can't be changed. If you program something into the code, it can't be altered, and that fundamentally changes the nature of our relationships. So I would like to remind everyone that we do have a Q&A in the bottom left-hand corner. I just wanted to say a big thanks to Seafarer124, or Derek, who's just commented to say, this is so much better than CoinSummit. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Derek. So, guys, what do you want to do? Do you want to go to the news now? Do we want to talk a little bit about the ruling yesterday with Dread Pirate Roberts allegedly being struck down by the judge?
Well, I've got more to say on what we were discussing because I've been
Go,
laying
go.
back here. So what I wanted to say is, well, I agree with a lot of your points. I like what Ray said about choosing why you even need the government and also choosing your own government with your feet. Those are both good ideas. And what I wanted to say is that it goes back to the social contract, right? We've taken a social contract with our government. We're giving up some things. They're giving us protection and other things. And the question that they're asking with this, they're trying to slow down Bitcoin. And for me, Bitcoin is the MP3. And if you look at the real MP3, like when I started, 97 with the command line, you type in something, there's a WAV file, there's an MP3 file, then suddenly the WAV file is smaller, right? It's smaller on the computer. It takes up less space. You can store more MP3 files than WAV files on a disk. That's the difference, right? Now, for years, they tried to fight out that difference in the courts, and they tried to legislate it, and they shut down Napster, and they shut down Emule, and they brought up BitTorrent, and they came up with iTunes, right? And what we're seeing here with Bitcoin is the same thing. They want to figure out how to shut down Bitcoin and how to turn Bitcoin into iTunes, right? Because they love iTunes now. They finally, it took them, 10 years or whatever, they finally realized that the MP3, that little thing that makes your file smaller, could make you be able to sell more music, to sell music in a different way, to sell only the hit song. Maybe you could make more money selling only the hit song, maybe less. I don't know. There's all kinds of different factors. They're selling T-shirts. They're selling concerts now. It's very different for the music industry, but you know what never changed? The MP3 never changed. You can still compress your WAV file into an MP3 with command line. It's there. It plays on your folder. I mean, now it plays on all your devices. It's not difficult. You don't have to carry around a laptop anymore, which was an existing solution for a long time. Carry a laptop to listen to music.
Well, the thing
Which
is
is
about
I did it right.
Yeah,
thing
oh yeah.
about the
And
music
that's,
industry.
all my friends did that. It was all like what we did, and that was our music was the laptop. And I love having the phone and everything, but in a way, I had the laptop. That was the way. And that's what we're going to see with Bitcoin. These financial guys are sitting around, they're like, how are we going to iTunes this thing? And the problem is that the way Bitcoin works at its core, the way Bitcoin is like an MP3, the way it sends a dollar from me to you across the network is unchangeable because it's code. So they're going to come up against this. We want to change things in the legal, theoretical, human sphere, but we want to change the code. And again, going back to piracy and these ideas, the computer is a copy machine. Its best function ever is the ability to digitally copy something. And if you try to change against that, if you try to have your society, your laws, your thoughts against that copy machine, you're going to lose. The copy machine is going to copy things. That's what it does. And with this money now, the copy machine now sends money across the internet. So unless you shut down the internet, it's going to keep sending money. And all these financial guys are having all their meetings, and they're going to have all their millionaires and whatever they're going to do. It's still going to send the money. Like eventually, all of these bridges and all of these middlemen that you set up are going to be taken down the same way the MP3 took everyone else down. The Bitcoin will just rise up. Like we're going to go through a middleman phase, big middleman phase. We're unstoppable middlemen. And then the Bitcoin's just going to
And then
rise
the
up.
walls are going to crumble down. The thing about these middlemen industries, like the music industry, is it was an industry dedicated to taking the money away from the talent that was producing the music. It was selling packaging. And now I think you've got a situation where it's the physical experience of the concert that makes you the money. The album now becomes a loss leader.
Bingo.
Because you just want to be there. You just want to have that experience.
And the concert's the authentic music experience of you with the artist. There's even a possibility for a small discussion afterwards, questions, autographs. There's more chances. And look at who our rock stars are now. Vitalik Buterin is a rock star. I've seen him at conventions. Like he almost gets women. Like I've seen pictures of him with women, and the women look thrilled to be in the picture. So and he's very cool. Like he's a nerdy guy. He's just a normal, shy, kind of quiet. I don't know him well, but he seems shy, and it's awesome. I'm glad that he's a rock star because he is a rock star. And Jeff Garzik should be a rock star. Vladimir, who does the new code. All the people doing Bitcoin, Mike Hearn, should be all rock stars.
So did you just say he almost gets the girls?
I haven't hung out with him. I don't know that Vitalik is closing the deal, but I know that from a grouping perspective that they want to be photographed with him, which is a great step on the way there, I think, right? I don't know. Like you look at Van Halen, what are they doing that's different than what Vitalik's doing? He gave a speech, he had slides. You
Well,
know,
well, if Vitalik is watching this, maybe you could let us know. Did you get the seed round? Did you get to the A round? Did you get to the B round? Let us
how
know,
many
Vitalik.
millions did you get?
Listen,
I
listen,
Oh boy.
listen. Just before we wrap this kind of section up, I wanted to draw attention to an article that I found a few years ago that is just absolutely brilliant, and I try to send this to as many people as I can. Don't build a paywall, create a velvet rope instead. And essentially, it's about the upsell. It's about producing what Adam Levine calls the value for value exchange. Give the people a free entry point so that you're not excluding any of your addressable market. Make sure that everyone has a way in. But when they do get there, make sure that you listen to their needs. And if they like what you've got, you can give them a value for value exchange. Just charge for good, honest content. Like, why not? Why do we always have to go the advertising route? I just don't get it. I had somebody on our last video that we did this morning as the morning session say to me, well, why am I so anti-capitalist? And maybe he came through halfway into the video. Maybe I didn't make myself clear. I am definitely not anti-capitalist. What I'm against is noisy signals in a market. Markets are conversations. They're places where people come to address their needs and to work out what they can do for one another. And at the moment, we are in a supply side heavy economy where I find something of value and then I just try and spend the rest of my business activities persuading a bunch of other people that they need it, whether or not they need it. What we need to get to is a balanced economy that is demand side and supply side. I want to come to the market and I want to say, look, I've got this need. Right, and I can do this right now with usability exercises, with sitting down with a UX designer, a web designer, an app designer, and actually saying, look, this is the goal that I'm trying to achieve. I'm trying to get from here to here, and then the UX designer listens to those needs and actually sends those signals and prices that sentiment in up the supply chain. They then go and look for all the various components and they start to source all the relevant materials and the talent to produce those materials before producing an experience that I would then want to advertise for them, right? If they've done a good enough job, I can actually give you authentic recommendations to my friends, the relationships of which I built up over many years. What's more capitalistic than that?
Yeah, innovation has to take place. There has to be better innovation. It is, I think, in this regard, Bitcoin is the perfect, it's like the peanut butter to chocolate analogy, because millennials, particularly in Gen X, my generation too, we're all about the experiences. It's all about us being in the moment, and I think that it's one of the things when people, going back to what we were talking about earlier, Chris, when people hear about Bitcoin, it's like, what? But once they actually use it and they see it for themselves, what can be done with it, then the sky's the limit.
Yeah,
it's exciting.
absolutely.
It's exciting when you get people to use it. And I would like to say, just for the people at home, that I got my Piper wallet, which is a little Raspberry Pi computer. It has a power source. It has like a video source thing that I guess that's an HDMI port, and then it has a USB source for making USB keys. And the way it works is you plug it in. You plug it in. It has a remember and forget button, which I don't like the description of, but all that really does is copy to USB. It's a copy to USB on-off button. And so I have that off, and what you do is you just push this button, and it blinks a little bit as it does some randomness or something, and then it's going to make a paper wallet. And what I've been doing is I've been taking paper wallets and just putting them into an envelope. So it's going to show you the public key first, so I'll let you see that part. So there's a little public key for you, but the rest will be down here. I'm putting them into envelopes with Mad Bitcoin stickers. So if you want 2 paper wallets and some stickers, let's see what the stickers look like. There's like 10 stickers per pack, Mad Bitcoins. And if you can't figure out my paper wallet demo, and if you don't want to buy a Piper wallet for $200, which is pretty reasonable if you have thousands of dollars in Bitcoin and you're going to come crying to me when it gets hacked from you, you could put a few of it, maybe a couple $100, in one of these paper wallets and stick it in an envelope on a shelf, and it's going to be safe. But I'm going to probably sell these at maybe $5 a piece or something for 2 paper wallets and stickers.
Man, Tom, I bet someone like a regulator like Losky would love to get his hands around your neck right about now.
Well, I'm not going to put any money. It's not money transmission, because I'm certainly not going to put any money in these paper wallets, because that's how they got Cassacious coins. Cassacious coins is doing the same thing, But
I thought
what
that
he
was
was
such a
doing,
cool
he was
concept.
putting like a Bitcoin in the Bitcoin, and they're like, no, you can't send a Bitcoin and a Bitcoin over a state line. There are laws, but these are empty paper wallets, but they're ready to go. I'm sealing them live. As you can see, I'm not scanning them. I can't memorize QR codes. I could try, I guess, but
Yeah, but you could have been doing anything in the background. We don't know.
I could be doing anything. Yeah, well, that's what
I
I've been
could,
doing
I
it
could have
live on
anything.
the internet. This proves it. I guess if I went through and steamed up the envelopes later, I could be copying all the keys. So there's that possibility.
But wait
Whilst
a
we're
second, Bitcoin isn't money; it's software. It's free speech. So how is that
Oh,
even? How could they even
dude.
prosecute you for that?
One sec. Money is just whatever's the most convenient thing for the lawyer to say at that time. Like
Exactly.
what Bitcoin is now determined by the PR company, right? So yesterday, maybe this is a good segue into the Silk Road story because Ross Ulbricht's lawyer tried to persuade the judge in his case that Bitcoin wasn't money because FinCEN and the regulators in the US and the IRS had determined that it was property for the purposes of taxes. And basically, the judge came back and said, you can't do that. Just because they said it was doesn't mean that we, for the purposes of this court case, are going to decide that it's property or anything else. I will decide what it is. And basically, what was the name of the judge again, Tom? Just remind me.
It says U.S. District Judge Catherine Forrest.
There you go. Yeah. And she's basically saying, look, you don't get to pull that one on me. You were clearly trading these drugs and this other merchandise for Bitcoin. So to all intents and purposes, as it pertains to this trial, this is a tradable something. Therefore, yes.
Oh my God! Hold on, just 1 second. So, what about the news that was going on when people were trading Tide detergent? You know, communities were trading Tide detergent, I guess, for drugs or whatever. Does that mean Tide detergent is money now?
Well, it's an interesting philosophical question, right? What
The
is money?
government could confiscate and steal your Tide detergent 100%. They would resell it in a large Tide auction. There would be several bidders, like, who's going to get your Tide detergent? And again, yeah, I remember that story. It was the strangest thing, but yeah, 100%. They were selling Tide for drugs, etc. Like, oh yeah.
And what was the other part?
Ross's lawyer should have just went for the kill. The story here is that all you have to do is go to a webpage like this and justiceforross.org, which links you to the Dart versus Craigslist case. Now, in the Dart versus Craigslist case, the United States District Court for the Northern District of Illinois found that Craigslist, as an internet service provider, was immune from wrongs committed by their users. Now, I don't know what kind of evidence they have on Ross. Maybe he actually, facilitated in drug transactions. I don't know how bad his emails are. And everyone out there should remember that your emails are evidence against you. When you type things in your emails, you're always creating an evidence trail. Even if you think you've encrypted them and deleted them, that's never going to work. Someone's going to find it. They're going to read your emails out against you, and they're going to find out if you're a nice guy or if you're a Nixonian jerk. And,
apparently not if you're the IRS or lowest learner.
Well, unfortunately, some people in the Bush administration also used to have email, but it got deleted, and then their IT guy crashed a small airplane. So there are ways not to have your emails read out loud, but for a normal person, like, they're going to read your emails. And as long as his emails aren't too terrible, and who knows what the rest of the evidence in this case is, but this case is what I would go to, Dart versus Craigslist. Because if you think about Craigslist and you think about the Silk Road, what's the difference? Well, Craigslist doesn't have Bitcoin yet, right? Obviously, Bitcoin is hugely important to Craigslist. They need to get on it. They need to be trading things in Bitcoin. It's the ultimate pseudo-anonymous, which means that, if you bring it in anonymously, you can trade it anonymously. And for your general day-to-day use, it's anonymous enough for normal transactions. For large, serious transactions, it's not anonymous. right?
Well,
So it's not good
Tom,
enough. But
I think you'll find that Catherine Forrest was very on her game at this point, where she says, "Look, Silk Road was specifically and intentionally designed for the purpose of facilitating unlawful transactions." This is in response to Ross's lawyer basically saying that it's a bit like owning a house and just taking a disinterest in what goes on in that house. And then she basically later goes on to say that the allegations amount to Ulbricht acting as a sort of godfather, determining the territory, the actions which may be undertaken, and the commissions that will retain. And basically, she's saying that he didn't just, have a disinterest in this property and not care about what went on. He actually built secret doorways and actually facilitated their transactions. So actually, I think, Forrest, it already sounds like she's not going to be sympathetic. It sounds like she's already coming down on the side of the prosecution. And the reason this is dangerous is that you have no way of anticipating what the laws are going to be, and yet you are already proliferating vital information about yourself. Like Tom is saying, every time you send an email, it not only persists on your side, it also persists on the other person's computer as well, and it persists in the cloud if you're using something like Gmail, which a lot of people do. So you've got to bear in mind that you don't know what government or what corporation is going to come along later, and you don't know what laws they're going to decide all of a sudden, right? So you've got to try and play a game where you're anticipating their intentions ahead of time. That's all the more reason to actually domicile a lot of this data to the client side and not have it up on the cloud.
Oh, and this reminds me of that great article that I read just a couple days ago. It wasn't new or anything, but I think it was called "Everything is Wrong." I had a note to it, but I've lost it. But I'll find it. And what the article said is that if you think about the security people, like the people who work for NSA, they work for CIA, big ones, small ones, whoever they are, they're the most surveilled people in the world. Right? When everyone talks about if you're not doing anything bad, you have nothing to worry about, it's those people who are actually under this system themselves that have created it who are actually in the box already. They know what it's like to live with essentially like a god watching you all the time, judging you like Santa Claus, like an ever-present Santa Claus watching you, judging you. They know that feeling because that's already their existence, their reality. If they step out of line, the hammer comes down on them. And they are essentially going to bring that experience to everyone else. That's what we're seeing the rollout of, it seems. So.
Yeah, it's a shame. We're living in an era where almost out of, I know the analogies are made, shop-worn analogy, but 1984, Orwellian thought crime taking place. But I think that Bitcoin, aside from its utilitarian aspects, its cryptocurrency, it helps us bring to bear these questions about personal sovereignty and the countermeasures we can take in order to gain some of that freedom back. What can we do? We don't necessarily have to just accept as foregone conclusion these things that are taking place. We can fight back, and we should fight back because things could be better and they should be better. We have the creativity of some, 6 billion people on the planet that's locked in poverty, et cetera, and things like Bitcoin can help unlock that. How many more problems can be solved? We have those people don't have to live from that hand-to-mouth survival. If they can set that aside through innovative things like Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and frictionless economic transactions, how much creativity can we unlock? How many more problems can we solve? And this is the thing that always came back, not necessarily from the speculatory aspect of Bitcoin, but always back to the same decentralization, disintermediation. What problems can be solved once we get away from that hand-to-mouth stuff? How many problems? What the cure to cancer to this? How many geniuses are out there?
Look at what they're willing to throw away. They're throwing away, like with the MP3, with the whole legal situation there, with making everyone a criminal, everyone's a pirate, and what they've done with YouTube, with the ability to create remixes. If you use anyone else's audio or anyone else's content, you're flagged as a criminal. You're not a creative person discussing the content or even using the content as fair use, which is supposed to be legal, but YouTube makes it more like you have to prove it with a lawyer, so it's expensive to be legal. All these barriers they're putting up, they're losing entire generations of creativity, entire generations of lawyers, and with this monetary situation with the Bitcoin, if they continue to fight the Bitcoin, they're going to lose entire generations of financial people. The smart financial people are not in the old system. They're in Bitcoin now. If you look at the resumes of the people who are working for these large companies that are getting the big money, It's all used to work at Visa, used to work at Facebook.
Right.
The old
Point.
company.
Good point.
So we have one comment from Haptron who says, the interesting philosophical question is easy to answer. Legislators can just make any law no matter what the truth is. And it brings up a really interesting point of what is sovereignty and what king is legitimate. And if I can just go up to a piece of dirt and I can just draw an artificial line around it, my ability to execute is really a function of my power and my level of force to persuade a whole bunch of other people that I really do have jurisdictional control over it.
That's why the new law is going to be so exciting. Like Chris, you were there. Pamela Morgan said that code is law. And basically, you think about like having another jury system, having another dispute regulation system, building meta systems on top of this, thinking of the government as just something else to compete with. And we're really going to a snow crash type world where the government is one faction and you could just join one of the other factions and have all of your needs met, which is what we're looking for, is our needs to be met. The government's not responsive to our needs, the people's needs. It's responsive to the corporations' needs, and eventually that's going to change. That's going to come back on them.
I think it was Lawrence Lessig who said that, but you're right. Pamela very much continued that across. I mean, it's important to realise that laws do require interpretation. So not everything can be automated away with computers, but there's a lot that can, particularly when it comes to the witnessing. Just think right now how many people already have cameras on them. Right now in the UK, police have had to start wearing these wearable cameras with wide-angle lenses and microphones on their actual uniforms because so many people were videoing so-called police brutality. Now, in some cases, these videos were highly edited and taken out of context, and I think the police felt like, well, we'd better carry cameras with us too. So as I understand it, these cameras just keep recording all the time. And then later on, if something happens, that video can be used as evidence, and that way you've still got the context. You can see what happened leading up to the event. You can see what happened afterwards, because it's not fun being a police officer in the United Kingdom right now. I can tell you that after the Mark Duggan fiasco that happened a few years ago in 2011 with all the riots and the civil unrest, the police have got a branding problem, and that this term legitimacy keeps coming up in the debate in the news and the tabloids, because the police are struggling to persuade members of the public that they are legitimate.
And look at the importance of creating an authentic record. Like you said, the cops have to wear little cameras now. In Russia, they have so many hit-and-run accidents caused by criminals looking to rip you off, put you into a scam type situation, that all the people in Russia now have dash cameras that record wherever they're driving. They just turn them on when they drive. And when there was that big meteor that came down in Russia, we got all these different camera angles of it from everyone's dash cam, because they all have dash cams. And that's what we're really looking at in this future. Everyone's going to be creating an authentic record, probably to protect themselves in some kind of over-legal situation.
So how do we get governing down to the level of the individual? If we get rid of government, we still need some of the key practices and activities that government currently partakes in, don't we? So we still need to...
I like fractional representation. My idea is basically that we go back, first of all, to a one-to-one vote. Everyone gets a vote. Oh, well, all of a sudden, all of us are in Congress, and we can all speak. We can go to the Congress system and speak. We can all vote. We can go to the Congress system and vote. But unfortunately, we're all too busy to vote every day. Like, it's great, like, maybe if you're an idealistic student, you'd spend a week or two, like, really getting up on the issues, making some, intelligent comments, acting in the system. But really, unless you're a professional senator, you're not going to want to go down to the market and vote every day. That's why with fractional representation, you can give points of your representation. Your 1.0 breaks down. You can give 0.1 to Joe, 0.1 to Chris, 0.1 to Ray, and then when Ray votes, he votes as a 1.1. He votes with your point, and your vote is stored. Then,
so you're selling your vote. I mean, that kind of happens a little bit rudimentarily at the moment, but where you can trade
it's like
your vote for someone else's.
You're picking a politician that you want to sponsor, but if you don't like the way they vote, like if they vote against your interest on one bill, you can take back your representation, and the next day they will be weaker. So the system is constantly fluctuating and rewarding different politicians or actors in the system. I don't know that you'd really even need limits. If one person became really too powerful, then I think the system would eventually adjust. Maybe you would need some kind of top limits. But that's, again, just a more detailed philosophical argument. But basically, because we have the internet, because we have computers, it's reasonable to calculate this. Before it was unreasonable. If I wanted to have 300 people represent me, that's an unreasonable request. But now, if you really say fractional, like Satoshi's, all the way down to 8 digits, I could have thousands of people represent me. I could have a whole group of variety of people that I've given my vote to. And if I decide to change my vote the next day, that vote is cast, but I can take back my representation, start voting for myself again, or non-voting or whatever, or I can give it to someone else, to some other group.
Yeah, I think the important thing that Andreas mentioned in his speech at Bitcoin in the Beltway was that regulation only works at a local level. Once you start to scale and you get a global village, a very small kind of there's a sort of ambient sociality. You've got so much going on in the world. Regulation starts to break down because you can't trace every last action to every identity on the planet when you're physically far away. So what we could be looking at is a future where a lot of the laws become local laws and very heavily contextual, but then you have overarching global laws that are applied through the blockchain. So when I move into a new jurisdiction, I have to play by the rules of people within this jurisdiction or within this particular community online that I go to, and I'm going to be expected. In fact, I won't even be able to take part unless I'm compliant, because a lot of these things are going to be baked into the physics of my universe. One of the things we got from Permacredits, one of the comments, he says, and if one jurisdiction isn't helpful in handling a global trade system, then another one will. So I think he's talking about
that's exactly right.
Yeah, talking about the opportunity that it creates. If one person doesn't want to use it, then guess what? All you're doing is passing it. You're giving opportunities to smaller nations to take advantage of the power that this technology has to offer.
There's one that's going to do it. I don't know exactly which one yet, but there are some forerunners out there. I think that if we start looking at, since we're born under these birth certificates and questions of sovereignty, right, we should start viewing governments as a market. If it doesn't serve my needs, go somewhere else. Go somewhere else, and that's what we're trying to do. And Bitcoin makes it infinitely easier now. You breach that financial Berlin Wall, and once you have that big economic millstone taken from off your neck, you separate the yoke from the ox, so to speak. Then it's just a matter of having fun and interacting with people and getting down to the nitty-gritty as far as who we are as human beings. But yeah, definitely, if one jurisdiction is not working for you right now, today, move. I did. It's not easy, but it can be easier, and it can be fun.
So we also have a comment from Derek, who says, the lady from 37 Coins was the most enlightening presentation at CoinSummit. If conferences were more suited to promoting Bitcoin adoption and not the technical financial jargon, there would be more interest from the masses. I heard about her presentation too. Unfortunately, I was getting lunch when she was doing that, so I didn't manage to catch her, but I saw a number of tweets who said that she gave a really good show. So yeah, I think that's important as well, is that you've got to make a lot of these conferences just come across as very geeky. I think the general consensus from the public, I had a tweet from my friend Rayhan earlier who said, I can't wait for CoinSummit to end, I guess because he's kind of a bit bored with me tweeting so much. I think what these conferences signal to the masses is that clearly there's something interesting going on. It's almost like you see a crowd of people in the street and they're all looking at something, but you're trying to kind of like step over everyone to see what the hell it is. But everyone's so caught up in the jargon, in the lingo, in a lot of the power language that takes place around the system, that they find it hard to work out what all the fuss is about.
Yeah, I think it has to do partly with the platform too. Conferences, in my opinion, conferences are shop when conferences are boring. I think that Bitcoin, I think that something experiences have to match I should say, that the solution has to be commensurate with the problem. Bitcoin, I think the problem, we touched on this earlier, is the branding and stuff like that. I believe comes through adoption. So we should build experiences that match or that facilitate adoption so that people get an idea in a fun way, an interactive way. Oh, this is what you can do with it. That's what you can do with it. And the light bulb moments happen. But I think the conferences, when you have this pantheon of cryptocurrency gods sitting there with their noses in the air, you know, dishing out what they believe or to whom and what they deem fit, you know, building these barriers to entry, then it's off-putting to a lot of people. But I think that there should be some different experiences out there, different events that facilitate adoption of the currency. I think there's one, I think like CoinDing, I think it was like a cryptocurrency scavenger hunt, Bitcoin scavenger hunt, or something like that. When people get an idea, their hands on it, then yeah, sure. They
And
understand it
if
and
the
branding gets better.
cryptocurrency gods don't make you feel uncomfortable, you can always go hang out with those millionaires at that other booth. It's really down to earth type place, right?
I'd really like to see services like this one, which is ChangeTip, actually have more kind of content on their front page to help people that are new to Bitcoin
Oh, they're
understand
great.
what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant because this is like your impulse buy. This is like your candy at the shop counter, where people are going to have their first interaction with the Bitcoin product and the cryptocurrency product via social networking. Like social networking, if you think about it as an infrastructure that facilitates virality, what better way to grow adoption than actually show people with your actions what you can do with this thing, right? Rather than just talk about it all the
Bingo.
time, just
Right.
speak with your actions. And I
Your
think it's
actions.
incumbent
Right.
on ChangeTip to actually step up and go, okay, there's an opportunity here, not only to educate our customers, but we'll also get some huge reputational capital out of this if we start delivering videos that show people how to take their funds safely. I was saying to them the other day that they really should think about getting people like Jenna Marbles on board and other YouTube celebrities or pseudo celebrities who've got very, very large followings, and actually have some kind of auto withdrawal feature where, you know, as a celebrity, you can say, right, I've got this paper wallet, you put that address in there, and then every time their account amasses more than $100, it automatically deposits it to the paper wallet. The same way a mining contract, when you buy a Bitcoin mining contract at somewhere like PB Mining, it automatically sends you your payments to a wallet that you predetermine up front. And then you can just set up videos. Given this will be people's first touch point, I think that's the perfect way to go about it.
Well, and not just Jenna Marbles, but all the popular YouTubers. Think about the Vlog Brothers. I just watched a video from the Vlog Brothers, and almost everything they talked about, no offense, Vlog Brothers, was like fundraising. They talked about how they were fundraising for sarcoma research, they were fundraising for cancer, they were fundraising for another project, and they're trying to end world suck. And I totally think they're awesome, and I want to help them end world suck, and I want to help them end world suck and increase world awesome with Bitcoin. Hello, guys. You can put a QR code. It's like a graphic. I mean, I have one here. I guess I'll probably keep this one if I'm going to show it. So I'm going to fold it in half. That's the work that it takes. Then you hold up the QR code. Now, if you put this, a little thing like this, Chris might still not be able to see it, but if you put this in your video, people can donate money right to your video. Now, I'm talking Vlog Brothers who do donations. I'm talking Jenna Marbles, Nixie Picks, who do videos about how-tos and help people understand things and make people laugh. And I'm talking about, like, the Fine Brothers. They just came out with that new Kids React to videos where they show technology to kids, like a Game Boy. And the kids are like, I can't believe you played this Game Boy. That's so lame. Like, they want donations too. They make videos that millions of people see because they're funny, because they're interesting. Like, they do a good job. And here's what they need. They need to learn about this thing called Bitcoin, where you hold up this little, number thing, and then people can send you money through your video. So, yeah, it's revolutionary. I don't know how we stick it in their face and make them understand that. It seems really no-brainer to me. Like, it seemed one of the good reasons why I could make videos is because people could donate if they wanted to. That's like an option for them. So,
well, my
That's
contribution to this is to have a champion of the week, a crypto champion of the week, and this week it is Nixie Pixel for all the videos she's been making over the last 6 years, where she helps people get into Linux and open source software. She does some amazing videos, and it looks like she's just been set up on Patreon. So here she is. She's got a Patreon page. Wow, she's already on $2,000 per month. That's pretty incredible. And to my knowledge, I don't think she's ever asked for money before. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of hers or anything, but I do often frequent her YouTube channel, and I like to catch up on what she's been up to, and I don't ever remember her asking for money. She just delivered first and didn't give a fuck about what she was going to get in return. And it's all about creating that value up front, not going into every friendship or every agreement that you go into trying to make sure that you've got your exit and making sure that you get something back in return. She just created value straight away. So I'm suggesting that everyone sends Nixie some money with ChangeTip. Once she gets a Bitcoin account set up, I'll publish that on our Twitter and on our website as well. But this is how you grow adoption, by just building value.
Yeah, there's some great platforms out there. I like the YouTube idea, and thank you. I'm not familiar with Nixie at all, but I just like to say also, guys like Gubichan who invented FrostWire and FrostClick, how he integrated Bitcoin and cryptocurrency adoption and the ability for grassroots artists to put their stuff out there and bypass record labels that are exploitative and allow them to get their name out there, get their product out there, get their value out there, and for people to pay them with Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, etc. So that's something else, you know. And it integrated. He did a great job. Integrated BitTorrent with torrent with cryptocurrency, which I thought was really, really innovative. And it just goes back to different platforms that are out there. And if we keep going down this road and going that permissionless tack, I think we're going to do some great things. But of course, venture capital, the ones who have not so much the greed in mind or not so much government in mind, have some ideas that they can bring a lot of velocity and capital. But you know, those who are simply intent on, you know, the speculatory aspects and getting it, making it, scrubbing it so that Bitcoin is okay and safe for government, but it, you know, takes the legs out from under it. I'm just not interested in those guys, and I want to keep doing the things that other people are doing and let people experience it and judge for themselves. That's what I say.
Tom, what was that gag that Bill Hicks did where he said, "Oh, you're going after this dollar," or what was it? You were telling me about it the other day. Go on.
Well, I mean, the one about marketing. Like Bill
Yeah,
Hicks
where it's like, if you're into marketing, kill yourself now. But then there was more to the joke.
Okay, well, I'll do a little part of it, but obviously I can't do justice to Bill Hicks, the original comedian who, alas, passed away in a car accident, unfortunately. And Bill Hicks was a great guy, and what he said is, if you're at home, if you're into marketing or advertising, just kill yourself now. No, serious. I'm serious. You think I'm joking. And the worst part about it is you people, you fuckers at home, you think, oh, Bill's going for the anti-marketing dollar. That's a good dollar. Oh, that's a good dollar. No, I'm not. I'm not doing that. And they're like, oh, look at Bill getting mad. He's going for that righteous indignation dollar. That's a big dollar. Oh, a lot of people are into that righteous indignation dollar.
It's Bill Hicks.
Stop converting everything on the planet into dollars. You...
Yes, exactly.
I thought Bill Hicks was dead, and I come in here and you guys are talking to Bill Hicks. This is amazing. How did you do that?
Bill's with us all the time.
That is one of the funniest true fucking jokes ever. This is what I'm talking about, because you know what's going to happen now, because I'm so prevalent on the CoinSummit hashtag, and because we've done these like B-sides to the whole event and all of that, and it's totally unofficial, and we're probably going to get sued and get into lots of trouble. No, we won't get sued, because what will happen is they'll see the marketing potential in this. They'll go, oh, look, you know, Chris is going after the authentic dollar. He's trying to get the grassroots. Yeah, we can use this.
Look, it's the anti-pep rally.
You know what I mean? And we are building users all the time. I get like 20 new followers a day now. I get people emailing me saying, oh, I saw that video with you and Blake, and you were talking about all the philosophy and the underlying mathematics of the blockchain. I just want to say thank you, because then I went off and researched it. This is about inspiring people and energizing them to actually do their own learning, that teach them or help them to understand that they can think confidently and independently for themselves.
I love you, man.
Oh man, I love you too. Welcome to Blake Anderson.
Thanks, man. It's good to be here. The second I connected up, I was so glad that I did. You guys were talking about Bill Hicks, and I was just like, yes, dude, this is going to be great.
So what have you been making of CoinSummit so far? Have you managed to catch any of the videos or the tweets?
I just woke up a little while ago. I had to pass out for like a solid 12 hours because I hadn't slept in so long. So I woke up and saw your tweets and was like, I'm going to jump in on this. And so I have no idea what's going on, but I'm just happy to be here.
No, that's really great that you could join us. I just want to draw people's attention to a tweet that was sent out by Charlie Shrem quite some time ago now. I'm not sure how old this is. Oh, it's from the 8th of April, not that long ago. So this was after the CoinSummit event in San Francisco, where he says, you know, CoinSummit and Premier are grassroots events, real Bitcoin, you know. And I don't know. I just think that's a little bit of a stretch, don't you? It's not a grassroots event when you're charging up.
Wasn't the San Francisco event also like $1,000? I think
Yeah,
it
I
was
can't
also.
remember. All I remember was there was an awful lot of media there, and there were a few people on YouTube who were uploading kind of. There was one video I saw where there was some stuff that was said live on mic, and they didn't realize that they were being broadcast live, and they took a kind of section of that because Pamir was like, "Oh, you know someone in the Treasury, you know, maybe we should talk to her." I mean, not that that's anything really incriminating. I just think that what the people were trying to get across is that these kinds of events do seem to feel like quite elitist, and does seem to feel like you're just building another silo and you're just trying to privilege another niche group of people where if I play by your rules and I dress the way I'm supposed to dress and I say the right language and I've got the right look about me, then sure, you can come in and you can share some of the proceeds of this wonderful, valuable commodity that we've just discovered. When
Oh,
really this
definitely,
is, you
definitely.
know, and it's like, you know, this you're just totally not getting this paradigm shift. You've got to give up the need for control, stop trying to monetize everything, and think about sustainability and progress.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's why I was so upset after the DC conference, because the DC conference was so amazingly fun, and it was a great community, and it was grassroots, and then the script kiddies were like attacking people and stuff. So I guess what I really want to try to do is find the conferences that are grassroots, that have a low barrier to entry, and then also use that opportunity to try to keep those Bitcoiners that are new safe, and try to get really, really, really good, stringent documents out there that help people avoid Wi-Fi or getting the script kiddies to steal their stuff. So I think avoiding the $1,000 deployment too.
Fortunately, the businessmen at CoinSummit haven't even bothered to buy anything with Bitcoin yet. This is in a world where Overstock, Tiger Direct, Newegg, and Gift, GYFT, all let you buy pretty much anything you want with Bitcoin. So these guys can't be troubled to take, you know, one of their $1,000,000. They could take much less than that, maybe a couple hundred. Buy some Bitcoin, go to one of these websites, buy something with Bitcoin, and wait for it to be sent to them. So about 5 steps, and some of those are pretty weak steps. They can't even be troubled. So,
I've
Oh,
never
wait a
used
second. They
Bitcoin
can
before.
even get a private fly with the, they can rent a Learjet, right, with private fly with Bitcoin. So, there's no excuse
see, I
there.
was
If you don't
thinking
want
small, they
to
could
air,
buy a
air
book
takes
or a
Bitcoin
T-shirt
too.
or something. But he's right.
Right.
Learjet, rent a jet, you rich
I would
people.
fly around on a G6 with Bitcoin. If I could do it, I would. These guys need to get their shit
You're
together.
damn right I would.
I hear that's what LeBron James is going to the World Cup tomorrow, and I was thinking, like, boy, what a pain in the ass. But then I was like, oh wait, he's private flying to the World Cup. I have no
Private
idea.
fly, baby.
I
Yeah,
have no
man.
idea.
Nobody can hang with LeBron. He's like the new Jordan or whatever, man. Like everybody's like, we're gonna play. Like, can you imagine playing against LeBron James in high school? Like Shaq's coming to his games and stuff. I'd be like, I don't even want to play. I'm gonna go break my leg in the parking lot.
He's the
Right,
best.
he built his brand that way. Let me just take it back. I wanted to say this too. I think about branding, we talked about it earlier. I'm just one of those people too that I constantly like to try to hammer the narrative because it's been hijacked. We have to hammer the narrative that economic privacy does not equal criminal activity. And that's one of the things that I think that people keep hinging on when they talk about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. They try to paint us all in, with the boogeyman brush that we're, the kids, they're doing child porn, and they're selling drugs and this and this and that. I think that some of the countermeasures we could take and we should take is constantly coming, hammer. Economic privacy does not equate criminal activity.
Exactly. That whole, you have nothing to hide, so you should just be in public. That's not necessarily true. The laws are constantly changing. Doing
And
something.
retroactive too, right?
Yeah.
Right, and
And
now
the,
it
and the
turns out
big people that are breaking the law are like USBC and I think Wachovia were both caught laundering just billions of dollars of money for the worst people on earth. And to some
Right.
extent, there were project managers that were working with the computers that had come from Wachovia, and they couldn't do their projects because all the hardware was on legal hold. Like, you criminally cannot even touch this stuff, so their projects all stopped and got all swung out of baseline and stuff. And that creates massive problems. There was just a huge hemorrhage of money going out onto that project that was delayed, so the Federal Reserve had to give 0% interest loans and stuff, and
all
really
the money they laundered that went to all those drugs and guns for all those gangsters and all those people that got killed, like their clients, their customers, all their
Bingo.
customers.
Right. They said was in New Mexico that they were bringing just like bricks of cash to the counter. Everyone knows who knew who the money belonged to, and you just couldn't touch it. The HSBC guys, they were just bringing the deposits, whatever, bricks of cash.
They should have just left the straps on it, property of HSBC, this money, bribe money, like drug money. Just put the money straps on it. Just leave it on there. Who cares?
And that's the thing. If people weren't touching that money, it's because they were some heavy-handed people, and you know what I mean.
Exactly.
That sends a message. If people weren't touching that money because it belonged to HSBC, what kind of stuff were they doing to make sure that people thought that way?
Amen.
And it turns out that the British government's been running a fucking paedophile ring anyway. So it turns out that this is just something that happens when you're in power.
Yeah,
Right.
fixing the LIBOR rates and being a
Right.
pedophile and stuff, man. I'm like,
What
God.
they're doing is they're accusing us. What they're saying is, when you get the power that we've got, we know what you're going to do because we've already done it, right? So that's what they're protecting us against. Like government is like that. It's like the weeds in the garden that you allow to grow because, well, corruption's just a given. It's always going to exist. So let's just let it exist over there where we can see it. I mean, this is ridiculous.
Funny how Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies always circle back to the same question of sovereignty. Wow.
And what do you do with your power when you have it? And what happens when the lights go out and no one can see what you're doing? What do you get up to when there are no witnesses? But, like Julian Assange says, it's anonymity for the weak and it's accountability for the strong.
Yeah, I like to say that we have free markets for the poor and socialized losses for the rich.
Right.
Excellent quote. Sure, definitely.
But,
well, I'd like to just remind everyone that if you want to have your say, you can. I mean, we were up to 30 viewers at one point during this show, so that's really good. Thanks a lot for tuning in. We're still going strong. We're talking about CoinSummit, an exclusive event in London today where we're passing comment on the hashtag. If you have any points you want to get across or any questions, you can send them in the bottom left-hand corner of this video. I hope I'm pointing in the right direction. And we will comment all over it.
And remember, hashtag CoinSummit. Apparently they have a large screen at the conference, so tomorrow during the conference, now again, you have to have restraint, internet restraint, wait till tomorrow. But tomorrow during the conference, let's see some hashtag CoinSummit going on. We'll have some fun.
Yeah,
and especially
don't troll them too hard.
If you're inside the conference tomorrow, what we're looking for you is some Vines or some YouTube captures, some live video of that screen when we start putting the hashtag CoinSummit up, assuming they still run it tomorrow. So
yeah, so they're gonna put a huge tweet up that says like, "Oh man, this has been so awful. I'm gonna go ice my balls and spit up blood."
I can't believe I paid £720 for this. How gutted am I? I could have just watched it on the YouTube live stream, and I could have just tuned into World Crypto Network. I didn't even have to be
£720 turning into World Crypto.
I've had about 30 new followers since this morning because of this hashtag. Some of them are VCs. Some of them, I look at them, it's like one of the people, the founders at Sexio is now following me. I've got someone.
Finally, respect.
Do you know what I mean? I didn't even need to be there. I just connected with people on Twitter. I'm probably going to, reach out to a few people on LinkedIn later.
You're probably going to get a round 2 by accident.
Yeah,
you just stumble into it.
Guys, not being funny, but I've already settled my B round whilst we've been talking. I already did it. I did it on Twitter through DM. It's in the blockchain. Fucking joke.
Nice. Oh, I forgot to say, I jumped on this call right away, but before I did that, I had a phone call, and I'm going to be speaking at a Bitcoin conference in China in September, so I'm pretty excited about that. I've never been to China before, so.
Wow, are you going to go to the wall?
I hope so. I didn't go anywhere in D.C., so probably not, but I hope I will.
You better go if you go to China. That's pretty far to not go to the wall. That's awesome, man. So.
Yeah, when I was in Austria, I didn't see
I'm done printing my paper wallets now with 10 stickers and 2 paper wallets inside an envelope. I'm going to number them and sign them. Then I'm going to announce the details of how you can buy them on Twitter. Your very own paper wallets printed directly from the Piper Wallet printer, which you could just buy yourself at piperwallet.com.
Film all your printouts for me really slow.
Huh?
No, don't do that.
Here it is right here, the public key. You can send right here, the public key. And again, this will send it right to this piece of paper. I don't even know how much money this piece of paper is worth. It's up to you.
No, that's not what it does. It transfers the ownership on the blockchain. The coins don't travel anywhere. They just transfer an ownership.
The coins are real, and I have sex on top of them on my bed.
So, moving on. Derek says we should crowdfund Thomas to go on primetime TV and advertise Bitcoin. Man, I like it. Why don't you print out a Piper wallet right now and we'll do it? We can use that.
I mean, right now I don't want to like overstress the crowdfunding muscles. I think we've
Pace
crowdfunded quite a lot.
ourselves.
Like we're having trouble kind of crowdfunding to Chicago, and that's like $450 for a plane ticket, and we're having trouble crowdfunding for a new microphone, which is around $200. But we are available for that, and we are going to actually sell you physical stickers and physical paper wallets. So that's kind of like crowdfunding.
Well,
You
let's
like it?
also let's make sure to stress how important it is to get you guys to the Chicago conference because it's going to be great. I'm going to be there. Julia's going to be there. My friend Andrew's going to be there. It's going to be great speakers. Roger Vera's going to be there. And also, I want you guys to help me out with security concerns and stuff like that to make sure that people don't get connected up to vulnerable Wi-Fi and become damaged, and then give the script kiddies even more money by which to go to more conferences and do it to
I
more
think
people.
we need to address this at the level of the venue, don't we? Doesn't the venue have some responsibility here?
Yeah, and I've been in contact with Mo and various people. Me and Andreas and Mo have had three-way emails about how to keep things secure there. So I'm excited about it, but also you guys could really help me get more wheels because sometimes I get pulled in too many directions. And I really think that you guys should go and that we should get a fund to get you guys to Chicago. It's the North American Bitcoin Conference. It's a pretty rad one, and you guys should definitely be there because it won't be the same without you.
It's certainly a large title.
When's it take place?
Exactly. It's in about what, like 8 or 9, 10 days, like next weekend, I think.
It's getting pretty tight, airfare wise, stuff like that, last minute travel plans. I was planning to sleep on someone's couch. People have offered on Twitter, so that's where I would be sleeping. But in general, I eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I'm also told that I snore quite loudly, so that's something for people to consider.
I have a room and I'm sharing it with 3 other people so far, so there's going to be people sleeping everywhere. And if you guys need a place to stay or whatever, you guys are always welcome to stay with me whenever.
Yeah, cool, man.
Next
Thank
time you
you.
guys start
Consider an
Airbnb
option.
and try to get them to adopt Bitcoin too.
Well, so we've got a comment here from Bitrod in the Q&A. He says, "I want to see a type of flea market once a month where merchants all meet in one spot to sell goods and only accept Bitcoin. You get them to meet people in Bitcoin, and people get to spend their Bitcoin." I think that's a really good idea. Like it's a bit
Isn't that what the
like
Bitcoin Fair is doing or something like that? Don't they already have that? Like
I've been to an event kind of like that at San Francisco at the Bitcoin meetup, where because in San Francisco you have such a large amount of Bitcoiners, you could actually, Bitcoin Not Bombs came in, they sold T-shirts and pins. Somebody else was selling food, somebody else was selling T-shirts. So that kind of thing can happen in larger cities like probably San Francisco, New York, maybe Toronto.
I think it can happen in smaller cities too. I think a good thing to do would be to contact Davi Barker with ShinyBadges.com, get a merch kit and some cool hats and stuff like Thomas has, and then go out and start the community. And you could be central with some Bitcoin Not Bombs merch and then put it together. I think it can work anywhere. I think it's a fantastic idea.
Buying things in Bitcoin is a great way to try it out, especially buying things in the real world, getting to use your hot wallet on your phone, which is really the only place you should have a hot wallet. And remember, a hot wallet is any wallet that has keys in it that's connected to the internet. That's a hot wallet. That means that it could be taken at any moment, right? So if you have thousands of dollars in a hot wallet and you haven't bought a Piper wallet printer, or you haven't watched my video on how to make paper wallets, and you just don't care, and you're not willing to, trust your money to a nice piece of paper like this, your money could be taken at any moment, and it could be completely gone. And as much as I'm a nice guy and I'd like to help you get your money back, I can't help you at all. Like all of your money, if it's in a hot wallet, could be gone in seconds.
Yeah, we could almost think of hot wallets as wallets without passwords and cold wallets as wallets with passwords. Because yes, hot wallets have passwords and stuff, but that's a hot wallet. If people can, I'm kicking this example to death, but if people come to your house and they look in the windows and see giant piles of gold on your table, they're going to come back with more people and more tools till they get it. And that's what a hot wallet is. A cold wallet is they can't see anything at all. They don't have any reason to try to continue to get it, and it's offline.
And it doesn't matter if this giant pile of gold is your retirement, if it's money you made selling T-shirts and stickers, or if it's money for
you have 5 kids.
A nice single woman with 5 kids. No, it doesn't matter. The hackers will take your money. They'll take it from a Philippines relief organization. They'll take it from any nice person out there. They see it as an account number. So the whole pseudo-anonymous thing really works out for you in that way. The hackers certainly don't feel bad taking it from Bitcoin number,
Yeah, definitely. But I would like to call them script kiddies too, because I have a tremendous amount of respect for hackers, and I don't think that people that steal Bitcoin from other people really fall into the definition of hacker. It's not. It wouldn't fall under my definition, and maybe that's a subjective thing. But I have respect for
It's
hackers
a
and not script
terminology
kiddies.
thing, and you want to use the old impossible definition of hacker, which is like a railroad engineer is a hacker, and the MIT Computer Club is a hacker, and Richard
Right.
Stallman is a hacker. Yeah, no, we're still going to call anyone that breaks into anything else is going to be a hacker, whether he breaks in for good reason or bad reason. So
Yeah, but you don't want to make real hackers mad, dude. Like I'm afraid
I
of
don't.
even
I
real
love real
hackers.
hackers. I'm on Team Hacker. So
All
no,
right, good, 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 good,
they
good.
get it.
I'm not
So
afraid of
let's
script kiddies, but like a serious black hat or white hat hacker, if I piss them off really bad, I'd be like, I don't want to, homie, don't play that.
Well, and even so, money-wise, all of my money is on paper wallets, paper Bitcoin that I printed on a secure Tails Linux computer in the most secure way that I could possibly do, or that I printed with a Piper wallet printer, which all it does is it has a little computer chip inside that makes the randomness, and you push this print button right there, and it just makes paper wallets come out. And then you can put, $5 on each wallet. It doesn't have to be a lot of money. So.
Yeah, compartmentalization.
And I'd now like to announce I have 17 packs with 10 stickers, 2 paper wallets inside, sealed, signed, and numbered envelopes 1 through 17 that you could buy at madbitcoins.com. Just send me like $5 in Bitcoin and then email me with your address. We'll do it that way. Or Twitter DM me with your address. And any $5 donation gets a free 2 paper wallets, 10 sticker pack from Mad Bitcoins, which if I sold 17 times 5, Blake, you're the math man, $85, something like that. So if I had $85, it would almost pay for this Piper wallet printer, which I've purchased. Or alternatively, if you'd like to just support the show buying paper wallet printers, you could support it by donating to this piece of paper that I printed from the paper wallet printer. Say that 12 times fast, Blake. Piper wallet, paper wallet printer.
I'm still trying to do the math on 85.
That was fast, huh? Woo! Multiplication tables. But it looks like we've lost Chris, and that means that I'm in charge of the show now, guys. Welcome
Okay,
aboard.
quick question. I have a question. What was the underlying narrative, I guess, in CoinSummit that differentiated itself from other conferences out there these days?
Well,
The
it
high price tag.
Yeah, exactly. For Chris and for a lot of observers, it started off with this 720 pounds, which again, we're working dollars here, so $800, $900. Plus, it was 1,200 pounds if you weren't if you were an entrepreneur, if you weren't. They had certain rules for that. So it started out kind of elitist, and then starting waking up this morning, it just seemed like it's, according to my Twitter account, it says businessmen and bankers talking. And it says the cows are gone, but they're determined to close that barn door. So
Wow.
there's kind of this feeling that like the big boys have come to clean up the little crypto anarchist Bitcoin mess that you guys have made. But the reality is that
Right, we need to grow up, right?
code does what it wants, right? The Bitcoin code keeps doing what the Bitcoin code wants to do, with or without Satoshi, right?
Yeah,
Even
exactly,
Charlie
yeah.
Lee can't control Litecoin. Like, no one can control any of these Frankensteins that we've set loose on the world, and they're going to keep walking, right? They have no brains. They just keep walking, and there's more of them every day. And the more they fight them, the more they split up into little smaller Frankensteins. So,
And like, I mean, I was saying the other day, we don't want to push anybody out of the community or be elitist or anything, but when we have these giant elitist in and of themselves conferences that are bringing lots of capital in that is used to the old paradigm of operating, and they're like, well, how can we bring this digital storage of value back into the old paradigm? It's like, this is a waste of time. This is a complete, like, I don't want to be too brash or anything, but like somebody was talking about Brock Pierce the other day with one of my friends, and they were like, it's almost like, retards revealing themselves to be retarded. Like, how could you completely do the opposite of the entire point of everything that we're doing from an axiomatic information science perspective? Like, you're totally wrong. I don't know if I believe that, but I can see where people are coming from relative to the discourse that's going on here is not productive. And if you're going to bring a lot of money in and try to co-opt the system in a way that's opposite relative to the way that it works, it's going to make people mad that are really actually in the community community. So I hope we can figure out a way to try to balance the actual community that understands what's going on with other people that have money and want to come in and make changes that are going to represent negative progress.
Yeah, so as I understand it, then I've been out of the loop for the last couple of months. I've been really busy with projects of my own, but so it seems like they're still trying to fit square pegs into round holes. Is that the case?
They're gonna put the genie back in the bottle. Too much genie got out. Too much free wishes. Too much magic. We gotta put it back in the bottle.
Yep, they're going to clean up a minefield that's been all laid out. They're going to go and take things off the internet and make sure that they're totally removed. I mean, just stuff that can't be done. So it's kind of funny to me. And yeah, putting the genie back in the bottle is almost a perfect example.
Well, remember, I was reminded recently of Humpty Dumpty, and someone said their favorite line is, "All the king's horses and all the king's men could never put Humpty Dumpty back together again." So you try all you want, but that old
fairy tale, right?
The egg on the wall, that was the good times. And the egg's falling off the wall now. And, you try to put the pieces back together, you get up more egg pieces. Like, it's not going to work, guys. You just keep trying. Like, all of all of the things, So.
Yeah, the shell is damaged, the yolk is ruptured, and then they're like, we're going to put it back together. It's like, you can't, dude. You're not going to sew up a yolk.
Well, we have yolk engineers, Blake. We have the yolk engineers working on it. And they're going to have shell 2.0 technology, which is going to put this back in the bag. We're going to,
Brock Pierce is going to take all the eggs and all the shells and grind them up and then make new eggs with it, and it's going to be even better than new egg. We'll be able to get technology out of it somehow.
New egg. They take Bitcoin. Perfect tie-in.
All right.
So we're joined by Chris, and Chris, we were talking about why we got a bad feeling from CoinSummit and how it started out with the big price tag, and then we started to look at my notes from the Twitter where I was reacting to what I was seeing. And it seemed like businessmen and bankers were talking about how the cows were gone, but they were determined to close the barn door. They were having a lot of meetings on the structure of the barn door, how the lock could be improved, how next time this lock wouldn't fail. We have super lock now, three keys for every lock, and now the cows are going to stay where they're supposed to in the barn. But they're gone. The cows are gone.
The cows are gone, and they've been eaten by wolves, and now we're going to fix the barn. We spent a lot of money on fixing the barn instead of getting new cows, and everything's going to be great.
So this is like, whoops, everyone. Sorry, we we let it get out of hand. And this reminds me of Eric Schmidt's quote about the internet, where he says the internet is the first thing that humanity has built that humanity doesn't understand, the largest experiment in anarchy that we have ever had. And what people need to understand is that Bitcoin is the internet. At its core, it represents digital scarcity. It's just another way of communicating data online. And when I give you information, the point is it now deprives me of control over that information. Whereas in the past, if I sent you an MP3, I still had control over it. So it just adds nuance and extra layers of complexity. It gives me a new voice. It gives me a new way of communicating with people anywhere in the world.
Yeah, it's an absolutely new language.
Yeah.
Yeah. Satoshi Nakamoto, whoever he, she, they are, thank you very much. They've essentially untied the Gordian knot.
Yeah, dude, absolutely, man.
So we have a question.
All the old fairy tales and all the old stories are coming back. All the things that we thought we couldn't do, like the Tower of Babel and how it was going to be so hard, so complicated. Well, it turns out we built this artificial computer friend that's going to solve all of those ancient problems, the Babylonian generals problem, the Gordian knot, you guys mentioned, the Tower of Babel, Pandora's box, all these different things. Like, we're going back and we're like, well, what if Zeus had a cell phone? Oh, he wouldn't have gotten fooled then. Nobody's fooling Zeus. Oh, they put it on YouTube. Like,
somebody was freaking me out the other day, and it's weird that you just mentioned kind of Alexander of Macedonia and the Gordian knot. My middle name is Alexander, and I've always hated it. I was like, that's such a bad name. But somebody recently told me, well, you're an information scientist and stuff. I was like, yeah. And he's like, you know that basically the libraries of Alexandria and the information scientists that worked there before it was destroyed were extremely important. And if you're coming like from that kind of angle of history now to try to figure out information science in the modern age, that's really cool. And so for the first time ever, I was like, I like my middle name, dude.
Yeah, they represented some knowledge of human history at that point, for sure.
And we might get access to it yet. They're opening up the Vatican archives. They're scanning everything. And the Vatican's had a lot of copies of those kind of books. Also, whenever they banned a book, they were good enough to keep a copy of what they banned. So we have a good chance at some early versions of banned books that we might never have seen. Things like that. It should be really interesting.
Wow. I think that it's great. What my question is, why are they intent on building these walls? Why are they intent? Again, we go back to the sovereignty issue and the fact that people, we must have something already inside each and every one of us because they're afraid of unleashing it. And Bitcoin has already done that. Because if they can't regulate it, then they're going to go back to the FUD, the fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and all these other things what we talked about earlier. Oh, do it for the children. We have to keep you safe, etc. So what are they afraid of?
I think that even on an individual level, people are afraid of their lightness even more than they're afraid of their dark. It's our, it's our ability to transcend and to create that really, really frightens people. So then from a collective level, where any individual uncertainty or anxiety is just magnified, the collective is very afraid and they think of other people as less than them and that they can subjugate them, and they don't see it as something where the kingdom of God is in not just one man but all men, and you have to have respect for people. And that's where a lot of the collectivist subjugation of the individual for the greater good comes from. And I think that this all ties back into really old and ancient information that I feel like we know, but that a lot of the new players that have gotten wrapped up in how to make money in the old paradigm really have had that understanding destroyed to some extent, which is, I think, maybe why we all get so stressed out when we see the community trying to bring in all of these people with their money and capital, that they have the ability to give wheels to certain ideas, and then their ideas are dangerous, and it gives us all pause because we're concerned about it.
Remember, what they don't want at a very core, like classically, is they don't want us to work together. Whatever, like, we are different people, they put up barriers like race or religion or class or money or geographic location. They put up these barriers so that we can't cooperate and we can't say, hey, we have the same general ideas, the same beliefs. Or we put up value systems where you get more greedy than I do, so you want more things. So, but if you want more things, you take those things from other people. And we try to pretend that's not true, that it's not a zero-sum take and leave system. But it is. There's a limited number of resources. It's connected. And the more we understand this through the internet, what if we had money that allowed us to work together without all that, the extra stuff? Like the internet was originally supposed to be. Like, the internet has no races, no creeds, no religion. We have no identifiers. We all email each other. We don't care. What if we emailed money to each other and we didn't care? Like, what we all did. We're all, like, that's what they don't want.
Boy, yeah. Now we're tiptoeing the nitroglycerin. What
and
could
this right here,
possibly happen?
you're, like, Ray, you're in Colombia, right? Did I hear that correctly?
I'm in Las Vegas now, but yes, my home is in Colombia. That's
Okay,
correct.
your home's in Colombia, but you're in Vegas. Blake's in Minnesota. Chris is in London. I'm in California. We're all totally working together. All kinds of people on the internet are watching us now from their own locations. Maybe people will even listen to this later if I get around to converting it to audio podcast. All of these options are available to us now at very low cost. A camera, microphone, some headphones maybe. That's it. You're on board. Like, you want to talk, you want to get on, and even especially for our network, World Crypto Network, if you want to get in, you need a camera and a microphone. The better, the better, and good internet if you can get it. But that's it. You're on board, and that they don't want that. Like, and our only rules are don't be a dick, no negative stuff, that kind of thing. But other than that, we don't have any kind of rules. Anyone can say whatever they want, we'll discuss it. Like,
People have always asked me. I've seen to tweet this like little formula I came up with, and it's like I say, genes plus English plus passport plus smartphone plus Bitcoin equals modern day Marco Polo. I mean, that's essentially it. The global uniform in a sense of jeans, t-shirt, and ball cap, right? You speak the King's English, the language of business, finance. You have smartphone, which is a two-way street in that regard. Yes, they can track you with it, but you have something very powerful, right? You have a passport to transcend these boundaries. Unfortunately, Bitcoin. Now you have the opportunity to become a modern-day merchant trader. Do whatever it is you need to do from anywhere at any time with whoever voluntarily. These are things that they're afraid of. And these are things from us, again, not from the speculatory standpoint, but from the disruptive capability of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. I love it. It gives power to so many people who didn't have it before in ways that we didn't experiment with. We didn't have to experiment with.
My attorney calls it like an aircraft carrier for the individual, because he was always like, yo, your Bitcoin's a pretty good idea, but the aircraft carriers are going to get you. I was like, that's like using a Glock on a swarm of bees, dude. You're going to get stung to death. And then he was like, oh, And now he's like, okay, so Bitcoin's like the aircraft carrier for the individual. I was like, yeah, dude,
Ooh,
that's a
good
way of putting it.
analogy.
And remember in Snow Crash, they had that aircraft carrier that the people had taken over, and they turned it into a floating island. They built houses on top.
Right.
It was like an international zone, so it was like you could do whatever you wanted if you got to the aircraft carrier. So,
That's
and
a
they had
good.
the
I
internet.
love that analogy of the Glock on a swarm of bees. That's really, really cool. I just wanted to draw. I wanted to go back to Ray's original question, which is why, some people have this need to lock in profits, and I would take it all the way back to the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is one of the oldest epic poems or pieces of literature in our time. And it basically deals with the question of why do I die? I think it's very simple. PyRebel said it to me the other day on Twitter. He said it's very, very simple. It's just fear, uncertainty, and doubt. That's what these people that are power hungry are so worried about it. Yeah, FUD. That they don't know what comes after death. And they don't want to find the eternal now in like every moment of day-to-day life. They always have to lust after things. They're never quite where they want to be. They've always got to be somewhere. They've always got to get that exit, close that deal, get through the A round, then through the B round, then IPO, then dump it onto the members of the public and go off and flip another company and do it somewhere else. That's why I'm worried about all this kind of hype and speculation, is that the price of Bitcoin just gets pumped and pumped and pumped, and then they say, oh, look, there's another trend, and then they go off and follow that one. And meanwhile, we don't end up with something more sustainable. And the problem is that you're basically offloading risk. You're socializing the risk for everyone else. There's plenty of risk already in the world. It's called nature, right? Nature's just like this raw energy, this raw power. Don't you start introducing your own human-made risk. Like, I'm willing to tolerate mishaps and mistakes as long as you learn from it. But then when you start, like, actually acting in ways that are unpragmatic, I know that Blake, you talk about pragmatic self-interest and stuff like that, but sometimes I just think these people are stupid. Like, they're not even acting pragmatically or in a self-interested way. They're just acting in a very short-termist way, and they hope they don't get to live long enough to see the negative consequences of their time. It's suicide economics. It really is.
Yeah, definitely. I just linked a video in the chat over there, and I've linked it before into the title of The Great Tragedy That Is Your Life, and it's describing exactly the people that you were, that are always trying to strive for something, that are always trying to get something. They're never happy now. They can't ever embrace the ephemeral. They're always on this journey, and then at some point through their life, they realize that they've been cheated and that they are still striving for things and they've never been happy. And then after this happens to you long enough, it actually compromises your ability to snap out of it. And I think that you have a really good point, Chris, as far as the ability to embrace the ephemeral and to not always be seeking more or trying to get stuff is really the nature of happiness.
It's the fallacy of sunk costs, right, Blake? That they're sunk into their system, so they have to keep going with their system, so they can never consider any other system or think about anything.
Most definitely.
Yeah, going back to Chris's point about the Epic of Gilgamesh, greatest instruments. You guys should follow that guy. He really turned me on to thinking too. It seems to be that we're at a point where it's the pyramid legacy thinkers versus the emergent network framework that's arising, and so these people are intent on keeping that or putting the capstone on the pyramid type of deal, right? And whereas cryptocurrency and those who invented it, right, have given something like stealing fire, from the gods and bringing it down people and giving the ability to have that emergent network too. It's gone now. They can't stop it. You can even, if you shut down the internet, I think Andreas is saying that you could still transit the blockchain over shortwave radio. It's unstoppable. They don't realize that they've already lost. We just have to understand and help the masses understand that you've already won. Just step up to the plate.
We're Prometheus, and we've got the fire. We've got the fire. We're Prometheus, and we need to run with it, man.
Well, even better than being Prometheus, we're the people that have the fire. And Ray's absolutely right. Like the networked fire, the distributed fire that we have now with BitTorrent, the internet, Bitcoin, these things together, it spreads and it's unstoppable. And it really is like knowledge. Once you get the Bitcoin knowledge, you're knowledgeable and you're on board. And it's already gone and it's out the door. So I don't know what else I can say.
So we do have a question in the Q&A from Ventian1GMGTOW, and he's basically asking about the stolen bitcoins that are that people suffered at Porkfest. And I would just sort of direct you, I don't have to go through this again because we've talked about it in the last few videos, but if you check out some of our videos over the last 2 days, I mean, we've talked about that. We also talked about it earlier in this video with the conference organizers and the venues themselves taking a little bit more precautions, maybe warning people up front to maybe use a VPN or or better still, just not even bring any more Bitcoins to the event than they actually plan on spending there then. You should just bring like loose change.
Yeah, bring a planned out hot wallet and then use 4G. Don't jump onto Wi-Fi free or otherwise. Because even if you have to like register for the Wi-Fi, if it's a huge Wi-Fi system like they had in DC, that's a lot of people that are quote unquote registered into the Wi-Fi, and then malfeasance becomes pretty easy because there's a big diffusion of who do we think did it.
And
So
don't install bad programs on your phone. Have a password on your Bitcoin.
I wasn't aware what happened in Portland.
Well, I mean, there's different things that happen to different people. I mean, some people had incredibly large amounts of money in their wallets. Like 30 Bitcoins is a lot of money. Like 10 Bitcoins is a lot of money. So if you have that kind of money in your wallet, you're putting up a really large target. And remember, the way Bitcoin works, and I want to talk about this more. I always like this. This freaks people out. The way it actually works, if I send $1 to you, is it actually sends, like, let's say I had like $1,000. It sends all of my $1,000 to you. Then it leaves that dollar behind. Then it sends $999 back to me as change. So every time you use a Bitcoin wallet, it empties it out. It's like a 0-1. It has to be empty. So let's say that you had 30 Bitcoins in your account and you want to send me $1. Every time you send me $1, you're exposing that you have 30 Bitcoins because it sends them to me and then it sends them back to you. And that's just the way Bitcoin works. So if you don't know this, I haven't read the white paper, but I've watched technical analysis of it and I've tried to understand it. And that's one of the ways it works. And most people don't seem to know that. So
thank you. I learned something new today.
Isn't it cool? It's good, and you can see it in the blockchain sometimes when I get a donation. When it's first coming in with the 0 confirmations, it'll show the other person's account amount, and I'm like, "Whoa, did I get that?" And no, I got $10. I got a nice amount. But they have a lot. Whoa, and I guess if they, it's like email. If someone sends you a thing and they're like, "Oh, I have $200,000 in my email," you'll be like, "Wow, I should talk to that guy some more." And nice person. If you're a bad person, you're like, that's a target. That's 100% a target. But if you're a nice person, you're like, wow, I wonder if they want a story or some kind of advertisement or whatever, issue. So,
well, since we're talking about CoinSummit, let's talk about the notable absence and lack of mention of things like dark wallet. Right? They didn't talk about the obfuscation. They didn't talk about any of the anonymity, pseudonymity aspects. It was all about how can we sell this to people, like especially that panel on how to get Wall Street into it. And the first question that the host asked is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how bullish is Wall Street on Bitcoin, with 1 being not at all and 10 being, oh, absolutely, we're going to buy it tomorrow. I mean, first of all, as Pi Rebel pointed out on Twitter, Wall Street already got into this in 2013. They're not stupid. They're not going to tell you that they're about to buy into something because all you'll do is front run them, right? What they're going to do, like, dude, like seriously, this was like the biggest fucking non sequitur of 45 minutes of just missing the fucking.
Yeah, I could have gone in there and been like, okay, here's all the stuff that you idiots need to know. Let's have no speakers. Here's what's going to happen. $300 billion in venture capital is slated to go into Bitcoin as soon as a Western exchange opens that complies with risk management strategies that hedge funds have to comply with to dump that kind of money. That's what's going to happen. Everybody go home, stop your hoity-toity 1,200 euro plate, and stop trying to influence the community that you don't understand.
Stop trying to influence the community you don't understand. That is a great quote. Yeah, that was actually Michael Turpin of BitAngels that was moderating the Wall Street.
I like him,
Wall
though. He's
Street.
Cool.
Oh, you do? Okay. I mean, well, maybe then I just had a bad, one bad experience of him. But I will definitely check out his stuff and follow him on Twitter. Yeah. So he was on a panel called "When Will Wall Street Join the Party?" and it was with Chad Casalarila, I don't know, Alec Petro of Bay Hill Capital. So they were kind of talking, and I just kind of felt like, guys, you're just basically looking for another. It's like a greater fool theory. You're just trying to look for another guy to pick up the baton to pump more money and liquidity into this market without really addressing it from the ground up.
Yeah, Michael's cool. I think the last time I talked to him was in Texas. It was me, Andreas Antonopoulos, and then the two guys from FIVA, Leif and Lamar. They're really, really good. And we had a conversation about tax obligation and how to stay safe. And he bought like a Dogecoin, like dog leash rack or whatever for his house, and he was really cool. And I thought he was a really nice guy one-on-one, and so I would be anxious to hear. I haven't, I guess, taken in a lot of his public stuff, but I'd be anxious to see it.
Yeah, well, I just don't want to see any more panel debates about Wall Street and bankers and shit like this. I mean, don't get me wrong, bankers are people too, don't get me wrong, but they're already overrepresented in this market,
Yeah,
right?
and we know how the systems work. We understand. It's like, yeah, banks, we know. It's fractional reserve lending. Thanks for nothing. Like, get out of our conference. We understand how your stuff works. Come and listen. Don't come and speak. And I think
Well,
that's an important
Chamath
thing.
says you need to grow up, Blake.
I don't know. I've worked with Fortune 25 financial institutions a lot in the past, so I might be a little bit more salty than I should be. But
Every
Oh,
time I
that,
go into one of those corporations, I just see a lot of very depressed faces. I see people that have sold out, have given up on life, and it's like, right, I'm just doing this because I've got to do it. They're always stressed, they're always busy, they're always like nervous because they don't know when they're going to get shouted at next or when's that email going to come in. And really, like, I mean, I could work that job. All I know what to do. All you do is just add another person onto the CC of every email. That's all you do. Like this has got to be the cushiest number ever, right? Just pass the buck. Don't try to take any responsibility. Just keep passing the buck. Add another person onto the CC, and look, it makes it look like you're working.
Well, I agree, like, but there's a duality here. There are project managers and managers and stuff that work in finance that do work really hard and have to assign a lot of work. But also there's the paradigm of if you don't make waves, you get to the top. And so the people that don't make waves get to the top, and then there's no real audit processes or meaningful communication and stuff. And it really is a pernicious feature of the way that collectivized business is continuing to run with regulatory capture and all these, things that we kind of know about in our circles. But your common person doesn't know how bad regulatory capture is relative to the finance industry, and that 32 too big to fail banks are now 4. And again, I don't mean to be so salty about this stuff, but it is a problem that is upsetting, and I think that if I can help people to communicate it in a way that's not too extreme, that it will help them.
When you say they don't make waves, are you talking about, like, for example, like if I'm in a company, I don't want to get noticed, right? Like I don't want to be too well known because then people will start looking at me and scrutinizing my job. But at the same time, I just want to keep that right level of presence among my coworkers.
Well, it could also be that somebody above you that wants to hire you wants to hire the worst person possible so that they will not take their job. So if it's a position where they don't really need you to perform, they just don't want you to take their job, then whoever doesn't make waves the most is going to get that job, and so on and so on and so on. And that happens more and more as the banks that were 32 are consolidated down to 4, which, may be consolidated further. I'm not sure if those 4 will be able to continue to remain solvent. With the IMF and Federal Reserve, they have a big heads up versus other business or legacy banks, but it's a very, very, very delicate system, and I'm hoping that we don't suffer a COMEX default in the next 24 months.
Yeah, that would be pretty bad. So what else we got? We've got a question here from Gabe Higgins where he says, is there a forum where people that want to go to these conferences can also pair up for roommates to cut costs? I mean, I guess that's just Twitter and Gmail, right? That's just like us getting together and going, well, hey, if you want somewhere to stay, you can stay at mine. Last few conferences I've been to, I haven't had any trouble having somewhere to stay. There's always been someone that stepped up.
Yeah, don't be shy. Tweet about it. If you guys want to go to conferences and you don't have enough money for airfare, you need to share a hotel or something like that. Let's all try to help each other in the community to get to these conferences and to have a presence of people that really understand and that know and that understand the way that the philosophy and the value system of Bitcoin interacts with technology and society and in the myriad of dimensions really that Bitcoin has. It's a tough thing to understand, and if you understand it and want to go to conferences, let's help you do that.
Yeah, to be perfectly honest, I don't really have a price. If I understand value, if they have to, if the price they charge, if they're a commensurate value for it, fine. If it costs $1,000, if it costs $5,000, whatever. The problem I have is that they're trying to shoehorn the same system or new technology, new way of thought into the same system, which we know is broken, that they've held a gun to the head of the world financial system and pretty much got away with it. They've been caught with their hands in the cookie jar, laundering money. These banks, so why, if we have something different, are we going to try to shoehorn that into the same system that we had before? That's the problem that I have.
Yeah, I quite agree. I quite agree that you're basically replacing one monster with another. You're saying, okay, well, this is what worked before, so this has got to work again. That nothing's really changed. You're just trying to defend the status quo, and you're not understanding the
Bingo.
paradigm shift.
Yeah, I would
So
love to see conferences or events, etc. cost whatever they cost, even in Bitcoin. If they cost a lot of Bitcoin, I want as many people to make as many Bitcoin and as much money as possible. So it doesn't necessarily have to go down the economic value chain or economic ladder. It can go up as well, as long as the value is there, as long as they're not trying to shove their same system that we've seen is corrupt, that we've seen is broken down our throat, particularly when we have something new and better.
yeah, they're quite right. So we've also got a comment by Mr. Axe, who says, check out another great Bitcoin conference in Holland with an awesome lineup. Looks like we've got Tour de Meester, Stefan Molyneux, some other people as well, up on the 20th of September in Rotterdam. It looks like it's a $90 entrance, or maybe that's euros, I'm not sure. So that looks a lot more kind of approachable, but also, you should definitely check out on like meetup.com. Like, well, obviously my one, I would say this, wouldn't I? If you're in London, you can join us at CoinScrum at the London Bitcoin meetup, and most of these are free, right? These are just community organized events that don't cost anything. Maybe you need to pay for the drinks, but sometimes we even get the drinks subsidized with a little bit of sponsorship. So there, just go to meetup.com, type in the keyword Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, and you will probably find that there is a meetup near you. And if there isn't, you should host one and start one of your own.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah. Host
Definitely.
one. Host one.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so guys, should we think about wrapping up? We've been on air now for 2 hours. It's quite some time. I'm all up for doing another one later, or perhaps doing something tomorrow. But any sort of final thoughts before we go?
I just like to thank you. It's been fun meeting you guys and getting my voice out there. I've been tweeting about this stuff for a very long time. I've been busy the last couple of months. I just want to say, hey, thanks. If you have an idea, if you want to start making moves and move out of jurisdiction, take a look at the Relocation Rally. We're going to be hosting our first one in Santiago, Chile on September 27th. And we'd love to have you guys. We're going to facilitate Bitcoin adoption, how you would most likely use it before you step off the plane, during and after, once you get on the ground in a foreign country. Something to think about. Amazing race style adventure if you're thinking about moving overseas, and have some fun. Appreciate the conversation. It's been great.
Yeah, it's been great to meet you, RP. It's been really, really
Yeah,
cool.
we actually, your sound cut out a little bit at the beginning of the video, so we'll definitely have to get you on again to kind of talk you through it. But this is the website right here. It's relocationrally.com. You can also follow Ray on Twitter. There he is. So grab that.
Awesome.
And,
Thank you very
thanks,
much.
thanks very much for being here. Tom,
It
how
was
about
very
you?
cool. Yeah, it was very cool to meet Ray. I've seen your tweets for a while, so it's cool to have a face to go with the tweets. I wanted to remind everyone of that article from earlier was called "Everything is Broken," and it's on Medium.com. And this article is a lot about how computer security is broken. How whenever you get an update to your computer, that's not really like new software. Most of the time, that's a security fix. So if your computer is getting a lot of updates, that means your computer has a lot of security holes. And that's why with Bitcoin, everyone is becoming their own computer security specialist, because you're becoming your own bank. And if you want to store a lot of money on your computer, then that means that previously, script kiddies, I'll try to use Blake's language, they didn't care about your computer, but now they do. Right? Now you have all this money on your computer, so there's a reason to take over your computer, whereas before, no one cared about you. And that's the only reason you were secure before, is you were not important. Now, if you have 5 Bitcoins, if you have 10 Bitcoins, even if you bought them 2 years ago and they're not worth that much to you as an investment, they're worth a whole lot to someone else who's going to hack you. And this was a really interesting article. It also talked about the security apparatus and how if you worked for the NSA or the CIA, you're already in this Orwellian bubble. The world for you is already 100%. If you do something bad on the internet, even just looking up some bad keywords or maybe being curious about something, you're going to get smacked down. You're in that bubble. And what they're trying to do, it seems, is to bring that bubble to everyone else. And we have the choice right now where you can say, hey, I don't want to live in an Orwellian bubble. I don't want everything to be tracked. And that's why even if you don't do anything bad, being anonymous is valuable to you. And you can't see it now. Maybe you don't know about the databases and the metadata and the way we can just stack this stuff up and see who's a criminal. But eventually you'll figure it out. You'll want to be anonymous. So everyone should look into this article and just think more deeply about what's going on.
Absolutely, and everything is broken. Everything is broken from an information science perspective, and as a computer scientist, I use technology every single day that is just horrifyingly, terribly programmed to the point where I'm like, who was even dumb enough to hire this person to program stuff in this way? So everything is broken, and it's not broken in just an information science perspective. There's giant layers and substrates and everything is messed up. We have had these fallacies that have been perpetuated by the state for so long that the implications of the damage that has been done are getting pretty weird. So we have a choice now. Do we want to move backwards towards subjugation or forwards towards transcending the state and having real permanent progress and good be engendered by all of mankind?
Hey man,
that's
great
great.
points.
What a great way to end the show. I mean, yeah, absolutely. Right now, it's a skills gap. There are people that know how to code, and there are people that don't know how to code. But there are plenty of problems that need solving, and you don't need to pander to rich people or VCs or go to exclusive events in order to make your way in this world. Thank you again for joining us. You can follow us at World CryptoNet on Twitter, and you can follow me at Mr. Chris Ellis. And we'll join you tomorrow for some more commentary on CoinSummit. Until then, have a great day.